Well, hello everyone. Oh, what a day, man. What a day. Good gosh, this has been awesome. I can't complain. Um, this has been an incredible campaign. We did a stream earlier today, some hiccups. Stream broke kind of halfway through. I had Adam here where we did some Q&A and played a little Cities of Venus as well, live. And yeah, it's been one cool day. See, we got Gina, we get Taylor. Hello, welcome. I'm gonna let it riff for a bit, and then I'll answer people's questions if they have it when they join in. We are streaming live across, I believe, TikTok, Instagram. I gotta adjust this light. It's driving me crazy. Hang on. And YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So, and of course, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Cities of Venus, which is the campaign that we ran today. Super pumped. We are at, I'll show the page. Here. Can you, if you're in the lobby, can you say if you could hear me or not? Because our audio was totally pooched this morning on the any camera I went to other than this screen. People could not hear us. So if you can hear me, just say yes in the comments. That'd be awesome. Gina on TikTok. Oh, Endo Girl, you can hear me. Could you hear me before though when I did the Safari screen? Or you want me to go back there now and you can tell me if you can hear me? Let's go back there now. Tell me if you can. God. Okay. Well, we're going to figure this out. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to do the scroll in the same screen. So maybe I'll do that now. Let me go grab this real quick. I'll come back. Ugh. I don't know if I blame OBS for this or if I blame Lola TV, who are the ones that allow me to actually stream. But can you hear me now? Now that I got the Kickstarter in my actual feed, can you hear me now? Let me know. I got Endo Girl there. Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, man. I know the computer doesn't like it because it's I can hear it churning the fan. Okay, there we are. Cool. So we are at 23,000. Or sorry, 43,000. That's crazy. 403 backers. I'm pretty sure this is up to date. Let me see if I can get to the top here. Let's do a refresh. 43,287 backers. Wow. I mean, this is incredible. And I know Megan Endogirl was here this morning, joined us live, which was pretty exciting. Of course, we had the technical issues that we had to try to navigate through. But now we're here to answer any questions that anybody may have about this campaign. I'll talk kind of a couple top things off the top. We do have the first player marker. This is painted. Actually, Megan, who's in the lobby, actually painted this. Hey, Adam, how's it going? The board game enthusiast. So this first player marker, again, this is painted, so they come white, kind of like that color there. But this is painted by the talented Megan. And these are free. If you back on day one, we're giving this away for free. Otherwise, starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Oh, I know. I'm so excited. Thanks, Adam. Yeah, this is like a blur. It's going so fast. If anybody backs today, they get this marker right away. They don't get it right away. They get it for free as part of their pledge. Starting tomorrow at 9:01 a.m. This will be a paid add-on for $10. So we did have a lot of people actually pledge $1 today, which is pretty smart. So some people asked me out of the gate, they're like, wait a second, if I pledge $1, I'm technically a day one backer. And then I lock my bid in on day 28. Do I still get the first player marker for free? And the answer is yes, because they're still technically a day one backer. Kickstarter registers that pledge as a day one pledge. What I would say, if they want to help make this campaign as big as possible, lock in the pledge now, and you can always cancel later on. But the upfront 48 hours is really it's the first 24 hours. It drives the algorithms on this campaign, right? That's what drives us. So right now we're at $43,000. If you do the math, it's not like a straight trend line. For those who know how Kickstarters work, it's a reverse bell curve, and the math is pretty consistent. So if we're at say we finish today at $50,000, I think we have a good chance of probably hitting 50, probably higher. But say we, for argument's sake, we hit 50,000 today. That means we're probably a $100,000 campaign by the time it's done, because it's usually double what your first day pledges is what you'll get for the rest of the campaign. So the higher the day one number is, the better. That's why we always encourage people to try to lock in their pledges day one, which is why we did the free first player marker, so that we can encourage them to jump off the fence and commit to that bid. The other things we had going was these cool thermal trays. So we actually already paid for the mold on these. So these are the actual trays that come with the game. And there's 3 of them coming in a 4-player game. what surprised me, I guess it doesn't surprise me, but it does kind of surprise me, is that something like 72% of all pledges that we had where somebody backed a game, if you take like the kind of dollar pledges out, are on the 6-player game. Most people are grabbing the 6-player game, which is cool because you get 6 of these. You get 6 of these boards. You get 6 of the quad layer premium player boards. You get 6 dice mechs. This is the painted one again that Megan did, which look super dope. And this one is 3D printed as white. The reality is they're going to be injection molded. They'll be standard kind of injection molded gray. And there's some announcements we have coming around those later too. There's no stretch goals in this campaign. We've had a lot of people saying, hey, like, actually had one person reach out to me saying, where's the stretch goals? And this happened to me on a previous campaign. I had this happen where we tried to give the best game we could. And then people are saying, well, we need stretch goals. We need stretch goals. So we went and created a bunch of stretch goals out of nowhere. And then those people that were asked for stretch goals end up dropping out of the campaign. So, oh, you got the 6-player Adam. That's awesome, man. Oh, that's fantastic. So for me, as a general rule of thumb, I don't like stretch goals. And I know a lot of campaigns in the industry are trying to back away from that, trying to back away. Like it was the trend for the longest time of doing stretch goals, which really were honestly stretch goals. Hey, we get this much funding. Here's what we can provide. If we can get up to this funding level here, we can do even more, and we're going to make even more. We're going to add even more into the game. But because Kickstarter has become really a platform where you have to have a game pretty much done. I mean, and even Adam, I know you're one of the reviewers of this. You know that this was a prototype. The player boards, although are super dope, we're going to make them even doper if that's a word. Like my plan is to linen finish these if I can. That'll make them scuff resistant. We're talking to the factory right now. They're looking at some different materials to just kind of reduce the chances of warping. The holes, the way we cut the holes, we're going to adjust those a bit. So even if there is slight warping, which I don't think there will be, but if there is, it won't impede any cards going in. So there's things we're going to do to tweak it. Cards. Heard a lot of reviewers saying, hey, love this. This is cool. I want even more during the card phase. Well, we produced what we could, right? We were at like kind of 60% of the variety we could do based on the funds we had for the prototypes. Because again, we had to start commissioning these before Chinese New Year. And this time of year is tough to get prototypes done because it's such a, hey, how's it going, Veronica? Awesome pictures, by the way. Go check out Veronica Ortiz's channel at Board Game Master. Her photography is awesome. So thank you. You did a great job on this, by the way. But the cards, we've got like another 40%, like there's going to be 40% more in terms of variety and so forth than what we were even able to provide our reviewers. So that's coming. But the point I'm trying to make is in prior Kickstarter campaigns, people needed the extra funds to try to do more. But now the expectation is that the game is coming pretty much done. And so what you're seeing is a lot of campaigns taking things out of the game that they would normally put in, like spot UV varnish on the cover, inside lid printing, which I always love to do, things like linen finish on cards. These are things that are becoming industry standards that most people are going to do anyways, just because it gives a better quality game. But they artificially pull it out, set kind of these arbitrary stretch goals so that people have their stretch goals, and then they start feeding them back into the game. So they're just giving them back what they're going to give them anyways. So we didn't want to play that game, and I'm seeing more and more campaigns doing this, just saying we're going to give it the most we can out of the box, and if you want it, great. If you don't, that's cool too. So that's what we've tried to do here. Inside lid printing. We've got spot UV varnish. We've got, again, thermal form volcano trays, which we wanted to have because it makes the table presence so cool. You don't have to go and find cups. These trays, you pull out of the box, they're ready to go. We've got the thermal form rocket trays to hold your V-nuts. One change we made literally after we shipped the reviewer copies, and I turned to the factory, and once I got my copy, because I got my reviewer copy at the same time as the reviewers did, right away I'm like, there's enough meeples at 150, but there's gonna be like that 1 or 2 times where you're playing where everybody happens to max out and you're gonna run out of meeples, because there's just shy of, if everyone maxed, there's just shy of like 15 meeples. So we said, we'll just add more in. So we got 200 meeples, way more than you need for the 4-player game. The 6-player game has 250 meeples of these V-Knots with the spacemen. They are you've got this kind of metallic finish with the face shield that's pink to reflect the clouds of Venus on both sides. We got 250 of those in the 6-player game. Even things like this, I could have put in as a stretch goal that we're going to do a dual layer, what do you call it? IIS board, which is the International Innovation Station board. If our funding gets up to a certain point, we'll probably do that. Because I want to have like the little cutouts where your 8 guys actually fit in. But I didn't want to put that in as a stretch goal that we potentially could miss, or as something that people are like, well, how come there's only one stretch goal? So if we end up doing that, we'll announce it later in the campaign, depending on how our funding goes. But that's something I'd very much like to do. The language on these cards, then I would move that to a player aid, like a card that someone would have to reference. That card then also you could flip over. And some of the key iconography, things like what some of the symbols mean on some of the cards, that we'd have that on the backside as an easy reference. Things like that. And then that way we can take the words even off the player boards, because if I can take the words off the player boards, everything is truly, truly, truly language independent. So like right now, everything's based on symbology. We translate the book and we translate the player aid, and then everything else is fine. So it's much easier from a manufacturing standpoint to do that. Literally what I'll do in the pledge manager will say, what language do you want your game in? And then we'll just throw that book in with the box as it, that the distribution center will just put that in and ship it with the game. And the people, when they open the box, they can swap it with their book. That's how we're going to kind of set that up. So these are some of the plans that we have coming on this game. It's the one thing I think was really cool that all the reviewers said was they found the boards super engaging. How you have these kind of slots, how things slide in and out, and everyone really loves this mechanic. So we're constantly looking for ways to kind of tease out even more. So even after this game ships, in kind of parallel to that, we're already going to be working on the next phase of cards coming. And the goal is to allow people who've backed the campaign, we'll send out like a notice, probably once a year, maybe more frequent, we'll see. But at least once a year, we'll say, hey, we've got a new card pack. If you're interested, here's a pre-sign up page here. And if the demand's there, as long as the demand's there, we'll just keep cranking out card packs. So people can keep keeping the board fresh, keep them coming back to the game and having a new experience every time they play. Right now, I would say that we have it's a new experience by design, right? And Tabletop Tolson, we just posted her review today as well. And she kind of hit the nail on the head where she's like, based on how you shuffle the initial setup, because you don't even use all the cards, you only use 60% of the cards that you get per game. So based on what randomly gets chosen, based on what randomly comes up in terms of your events, based on the random selection of innovations you use, which again, we're adding a lot more. And we got this cool thing that we've just adjusted in the rulebook as well that will give people chances. Hey, Aaron, how's it going? We'll give people a chance to experiment with different innovations. So there'll be more innovations per game, but they'll be in kind of like a stack that kind of reveals as you go. And I think from the testing we've done on that, people really like that because it allows them to try even more innovations, but it's still random enough that, okay, I may or may not get to use those innovations at this stage in the game and so forth. So those are things that we're looking at and kind of pushing out as well. If there's any questions anyone has, please feel free to ask me. I'm going to stay live here talking to a screen probably for the next hour. So I'd love to field any questions, any clarifications, anything anybody has. Certainly there's been a lot of love in the community. I am humbled, and I look back, 3.5, 4 years ago when I started, and we did a game called Tanks But No Thanks. And I remember when I did that, I could not get anybody to help me on anything. People in general at that time really were not wanting to help people grow, right? And so I took it upon myself to start the Board Game Binge podcast. And that was all based on giving back, right? So giving people an opportunity to have a voice. And, I've done my best to bring on guests from all parts of the world, from all disciplines. I've had anybody you can possibly think of, we've had on the podcast, whether it be designers, we've had photographers on there, we've had illustrators, we've had, people that are content creators, like literally anything to do with board games we've had on the podcast. And what I've done over this past kind of 2.5 years is I've built up a lot of friends, which is kind of cool. We've had 226 episodes. Some of those have been guests coming back. So even if you take out, say, 20 of those, that's like 200 people that I've been able to interact with and have some deep, meaningful conversations, both on air and usually off air. We talk usually for another hour afterwards. And I look at all those as 200 mentors, right? That's 200 people that I could pick their brains and say, okay, what worked for you? What didn't? What are some things you try? What are some things you haven't? If I was to take some examples, you got Chandler Copenhaver, who's at BackerKit. He was at CrowdOx. They merged with BackerKit, and we're using BackerKit for this campaign. But even having someone like that, last week go through the campaign page with me, he took 45 minutes, and we were just going through the page, and he's like, oh, you might want to tweak this, you might want to tweak that. This is kind of where I'm seeing things go in terms of how you might get better engagement. That was awesome. Awesome. Tanner Yarrow, another good one. I know he jumps in on some of these lives as well. His feedback he had was on phone numbers. So when we were doing our ads, we were asking through Facebook leads for a phone number and an email. Some people didn't like that. We probably had about maybe 5 people saying, nah, I don't like the fact you're asking for my phone number. And then I could reply back and say, okay, well, here's a link to our splash page. You can just do your email sign up if you want there. But what that did is it allowed us to sort out a lot of bots, because Facebook is crawling with bots right now in Instagram. And when you run ads, probably half of the signups are going to be fake. So that's one way where you're able to filter that out, as well as get a stickier engagement, right? So if someone is giving their email and their phone number, if it's a fake phone, and there was I think 28 of those phone numbers we collected were hard bounces back, which means they were just fake, which is cool. I expected that. I actually expected it higher. But somebody's willing to give you their phone number because they're that interested in the campaign. That's going to be a stickier level of interest than just somebody just randomly throwing an email address in there that's probably not going to go anywhere. So great advice from Tanner Yarrow on that. So we started doing, phone blasts and so forth. I still have this. Oh, Richard McRae, I want to give him a shout out from Analog Game Studios. He put me in contact with his animation studio. There's a lot of very talented animators out there. A lot. Name a couple of them would be David Diaz from Mesa Game Labs, Ori Kagan, of course, from Kagan Productions. Those guys are rock stars when it comes to design. They're at a point in their careers now where they can take on some of the larger kind of companies with the much larger budgets. So little guys, you're still trying to get some good quality out, may or may not be able to afford them. And that's cool. And Ori's got a cool thing where he actually put out a tutorial. So if somebody wants to put the time into learning how to do, I'm drawing a blank on what the software is for doing. I actually use it all the time, actually. It'll come to me. Anyways, your 3D software, he actually has templates, so you can actually do your own software, which is cool, for like $50, which is awesome. I know Wes Woodbury from Fundamental Games did that, and he created some cool art for his page. For me, I got from Richard McRae, put me in with his contact out of India, and I'm still a big believer in creating if you have the actual game, which we do, why go and create a 3D rendering of that game when I can just show the game? Right. So that's kind of my perspective. So I would rather put my budget in creating actual copies. So we did that. We talked to our manufacturer. We used Sky Game, who are great. And Sky Game was, as opposed to other manufacturers that just straight up will say, I'm not doing less than 1,500 copies. And I've said to them, hey, guys, you will get the 1,500. I'll give you 2. I'll give you 3,000 copies. But I need 100 copies up front. It doesn't have to be final, but something as close to final as possible that I can send to my reviewers. And most of them say no. They won't do it. Skygame will. Skygame's like, okay, we'll do that. And it wasn't cheap. Obviously you got to pay a much higher price if you're doing a small quantity. Try prorating, for instance, molds over 100 units. That's very costly. But people are getting a much closer version of what you're launching. All right, so they can give a better kind of feel. OzM Games, welcome. And 2, you don't have to then worry about trying to reship games around the world. And that's one path some people take, is they'll create like 5 prototypes, they guard them with their life, and then they have to get people to review them, and they get them to then ship it to the next person, You need a much more runway to do that, right? Whereas if you have a shorter runway like we had, it's easier just to get 100 games and just fire them out to as many people as you can that want to do content and check out the game. You then have much more content to choose from when you do that. So that was our approach there. And kind of where I'm going with this is, on all of our videos, I try to use as practical stuff as possible. So I'll do a combination of, I still use storyblocks.com. Again, it's not an endorsement. I actually have to pay for that service. So they don't sponsor me by any stretch of the imagination. I actually pay for an annual, license on that. But what it allows you to do is storyblocks.com is they have stock photos like you would have on Shutterstock. They have stock video clips, which are very handy. If you go back to our planting evidence campaign, that was all clips I pulled from blocks that we kind of clipped together to create that story. And they've got music tracks. And the cool thing about the music tracks is you can put your YouTube channel kind of linked into their back end. And what they'll do is they'll go and pre-clear it, so YouTube won't dock you based on using music that they've deemed is licensed music. So we've got Mr. E Games joining. Welcome. So I still use that. So if you look at our video, at the up front, we've got the rendering that I've got from Analog Game Studios campaign, that their animator. So it's like 15 seconds at the beginning where I wanted to show the rocket taking off from Earth, arriving at Venus, and show the canister coming through the clouds. That was the kind of sequence I want. And then jump into practical table shots of the game. For me, that was important. You look at all the GIFs on our page, and you got some to the left of me here on the screen, or to the right. I don't know how you're looking at the screen. But if you look at our campaign page, all these were literally filmed with our camera phone, which you might say, obviously. I actually had one person in an ad saying, "Oh, this is a great ad if it wasn't filmed with a camera phone." It's like, what do you want from me, man? So anyway, we filmed this just with our iPhone, and then we created GIFs, and you'd be shocked at how easy it is to create a GIF. So you take that video into Photoshop, you throw the frame you want on top of it, and then you clip it on the length you want, and then you output it as a GIF. The biggest challenge in those, quite frankly, is getting the size of them down that the files aren't too big for Kickstarter, that the Kickstarter page freezes. But that's how we do those practically. And then we're able to then use our funds to put into things like getting a social media person that helped us with building out our page, as well as helping us with some of our social media stuff, and then also hiring our graphic artists who helped us with the thing. Mr. E Games. This is called Cities of Venus. This is Cities of Venus Kickstarter. It's on Kickstarter right now. If you go to, and I just lost my page. If you go to Kickstarter, citiesofvenus.com, we are currently funded. We're at $43,287, and 408 backers have already committed to the project. There's a 4-player game, and there is a 6-player game that we have up. We literally just launched today. Today is our first day that we've launched. And let me just close that so it shows easier. There we go. And yeah, we're super stoked about it. So we're just here to take questions from anybody who has. Thank you for agreeing to go take a look. I appreciate it. Certainly, if there's any questions about the game, we're willing to answer it if anybody wants to ask any questions. Other than that, I'm still going to keep rambling to the camera. and I'll just keep going. So that was kind of the how we did the kind of this upfront video you see at the top, and I think it turned out pretty good. I'm happy with where we landed on that video. I can promise you that the amount spent was a lot less than I could have spent on that. But it allowed me to, of course, create those 100 reviewer copies. So I put my funds into that and sent it off to our awesome reviewers, some who are actually watching this feed right now. I appreciate you. You guys are awesome. You are the backbone of this industry. And it really is a very symbiotic relationship, I would say. I really feel that way. The content creators, I think, clearly need things to do content on. But at the same time, board to play, welcome! But clearly, we need the content creators as well. And, the number of times now that YouTube is really like TV, and on my TV, YouTube pipes straight into my TV, where I'll just sit and start surfing YouTube channels. I know Megan does this as well. I love watching board game content. It's cool seeing how creative board game content creators can get. I know it all kind of started back with Will Wheaton. Back in the day, he had an amazing channel, and now we're starting to see content creators actually show up on TV as well, right? I know that our family plays games from I think they're in the Florida area. Starla and Mitch, great people. We've had them on the podcast. Their content's awesome. I always love the fist bump at the front. It makes me laugh. They are actually doing TV now, so their episodes are actually showing up on TV in their community, which is cool. This morning we were talking about Genders, who was who did kind of the how to play video up front on our campaign page. Again, Richard Gender, just such a great guy. He's such a nice gentleman. He really is, and you can tell how much he loves this industry with the content he creates. And there's a Swedish station that's going to start covering his content, like on TV, which is awesome. So I think we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see more and more of this on satellite radio. You're going to see, or hear more of it on satellite radio. You're going to see more and more of it on local TV stations, and even through YouTube programs like Dice Tower and things like that. So certainly this industry is expanding, and there's I think there's more room for more content creators. Quite frankly, I think as long as you got a hook. Why not take a shot at it? It literally starts with an iPhone, right? You can have an iPhone camera facing yourself and talk into it. That's how you start. Board Game Binge. That first episode was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. And I think that, I don't know I was talking to someone, I think it was one of the content creators that we were interviewing, and everybody says the same thing. The very, very first beginning when you're kind of getting your legs, it's rough, but you know what? There's not really anybody looking anyways, right? When you first start. So who cares? I have that saying, nothing matters and no one cares. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but when you're starting your content, that is true. It doesn't really matter if you fail or if you're making mistakes or you think you're going to look silly, because your views are going to be like this much as you're starting to kind of get set, and people have a 5-second attention span. I can guarantee half the people who jumped into this feed right now are already out. they've already flicked past, right? So, take a shot at it. Why not? Our hook for the Board Game Binge podcast. And again, if you're not following the Board Game Binge podcast, we'd love to follow. Anywhere you download your favorite podcast, simply type in Board Game Binge. You'll find it. You could also go to boardgamebinge.com. There's links there. It'll take you straight to the podcast as well. We're listened to in 26 different countries. As I said earlier, 226 episodes so far. The format's very bingeable. 30 minutes, in and out. Very conversational, but not conversation as, hey, how was your weekend? It's more, tell me your story. How did you get into this industry? What is your day job? How do you take what is it in your day job that informs you or helps you do this hobby better? Is it an escape? Are you now doing board games because you're in front of a computer all day, and to get home and look at another computer, you'd rather climb under a rock? Is this something to get back to doing something tactile and something with your hands? or is that a skill that you're trying to transfer? Like, I find people's stories incredibly like interesting. So in our 30 minutes, we crank through that. We go as deep as we can on that person's backstory, how it led them to whatever it is they're working on. Maybe it's a game, maybe it's a project, maybe we've had freight forwarders on the podcast, right? We've had a pick pack facility on the podcast. What got them to do that? This industry is kind of weird when you think about it. Like, I've got friends who aren't board gamers, and when I talk to them about board games, and they're like, "Oh, you're doing board games? You mean like Monopoly?" I'm like, "Well, no. The hobby's kind of evolved quite a bit since then." And, now with these two new games we have, Cities of Venus, which is on Kickstarter, Catnip Auction House, which goes straight to Amazon essentially in June. That's by Reed Mascola. That brings us to 9 titles. They're shocked, right? Thank you so much, Board to Play, for the congratulations. Oh, that means so much. We're pumped. They're shocked when I say, yeah, we've got 9 titles that we've published. And like, really? Like, are they selling? We're like, yeah. They're selling around the world, like they can't get their mind around it. It seems so strange, right? And it is kind of a strange hobby when you think about it. It's very niche. It's huge. Like, it's a massive hobby, but it's still niche. And so I like to pull that into people's story and find out why. What got them into the industry? There was something that kind of pushed them into the sandbox, right? Who pushed them into the pool? How'd they get in the pool? And then what are the struggles and things that they're encountering while they're swimming, right? I want to hear that. Chances are I've encountered a lot of them myself. Hopefully they can tell me something they've encountered that I haven't encountered yet, so that I can prepare myself and learn from their experiences. And I really like this. I got to look up who was the originator of this quote, but none of us are as smart as all of us. I use that quote a lot. A boss I used to say it to us a lot. Anytime we're doing any kind of team building or working on a project, if somebody came up with an idea that was a great idea, he would often say that, "Hey, none of us are smart of all of us," right? I don't have all the answers. It's the culmination of everybody at this table that's going to make this great, this thing we're working on. And I see this industry very similar. It's the only industry I know of that's got co-opetition, to use the terminology. I have wiped my nose here. I apologize. That Chandler Copenhaver came up with that. Co-opetition. You have all these competitors. They're technically compete with each other, but they're helping each other because they want to see each other succeed. The number of publishers that reached out to me today saying, "Wow, way to go, man. Oh, I'm so happy for you." Or even backed my game. Like, they're publishers. They have their own games they're making, but they're backing my game. Show me support. Many of them, I back their games, right? And it's this kind of community thing saying, how can we help each other out? How can we elevate the entire industry? And for me, it's very simple. One is I think that the industry is just full of really good people, like just really, really good people. And I don't say that to kind of be glib about it. Like, I really mean it. It is so heartwarming, the outpouring of love you have in this industry, whether you're at a convention, interacting with people that have played your game, or if you're talking with other publishers, designers, anything. It is a very warm community. And on top of that, I would say that, like beer, and I like to use the beer analogy, but you don't know, like, just because you like one beer doesn't mean everyone else is going to like that same beer. And board games are very similar. So although as a company, we create games that are, fall into the gateway game category, that can play in an hour or less, that you can teach in 10 minutes or less, that you can set up and take down in 5 minutes or less. People who have the first time playing have a chance of winning. These are kind of the tenets that we stand by in making games. But one of my favorite games is Rolling Heights. That's a 2-hour game. It's much heavier than, I wouldn't say much heavier, but it's a heavier game. I would launch a game like that with some of those mechanics, but I couldn't launch that particular game under Tin Robot Games because it doesn't fit within kind of our portfolio on, having something that you can get done in an hour. And I think a lot of the publishers in this industry are the same, right? Reed Mascola, Paranoia Rising. He has a cool game called Vigilante, and he's got actually second edition coming out. You check him out. He's a cool dude. He's got a second edition of this coming out very soon, I think in another month and a half. I was at a Protospiel, and he was showing me this game, which is this bidding auction game, and he had come up with it based on using spare parts at a prior Protospiel, that there's all these feet that were meeples that were little footprints. He had a prior pro spiel, and he turned into a game where your feet bidding on shoes. Mechanically, I love the game. I said, Reed, why don't you launch this? Like this would be great. And he's like, it doesn't fit my brand. My brand is heavy social deduction games. So social deduction games are going to take probably 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours to play. This is too light. This you can finish in a half hour, 40 minutes. Doesn't fit my brand. So we're talking. He goes, but I think it fits your brand. I'm like, you're right. I think it does. And so we agreed to work together, and we reskinned it as Catnip Auction House. And it is, as I said, it comes out in June. And now you're all a bunch of cats, and it's this kind of 1920s Art Deco type auction house where you're bidding on things like a roll of toilet paper or a feather on a stick or a cardboard box or this kind of cat stuff. You're using catnip to bid, right? You're bidding your catnip to try to win these items. Different items that you win can affect other players' cards and so forth. Very, very simple bidding mechanism. It's either you're in or you're out. If you're out, you take all the catnip that have been bid up to that point, and you can store it for later on in a future bid. Or you put one piece in. Like it's not like you're trying to up somebody's bid or anything like that. So it's in or out. Very, very family friendly. A ton of fun, and it plays up to 10 players. Yeah, Endo Girl, I know you've played it. It's fun. Plays up to 10 players, right? So that's an example of people in the industry who are competitors, right? We both have publishing companies, but we're kind of cooperating, right? There's some things we can do to work together to help lift everything up together. So I know it's a little bit soapboxy, but I want to get that out because to me it was important. I have no idea how many people are still in this feed right now. A lot jumped in, so thank you for everybody that has jumped in. Maybe what we'll do is go back to the page really quick. I'd love to see kind of where we're at. We're at $44,000. So for those of you who don't know, this is now the biggest. That's right. Endo Girl is saying, who doesn't love cats for real? I know. That's like literally half the world. I love cats. I had cats my entire life, and then realized about 20 years ago I was allergic. And the kicker was I had cats at the time that were only like 10. So they had like 8 years of absolute torture. My eyes and everything would swell up. So I couldn't really hold them, which really killed me because I love cats. But I had to kind of watch other people pet them. I couldn't pet them, unfortunately. All right, so we're at $44,118. Thank you to everybody that's backed this game. 411 backers. I'll say this. This is our biggest campaign yet. Full stop. The largest campaign we had before this one was Nutty Squirrels of the Oakwood Forest. That campaign, which is interesting, it hit 38,500. We thought it would go, we had issues with the ads. We thought it was going to cross 40, but it finished at 38,500. But then with the late pledges, it jumped up to like 50,000. And then with obviously when you have your pledge manager with shipping costs, and I don't count shipping costs because that just goes to pay for the container and getting the game to people. But in terms of pledges, we got to about 50,000 with the late pledges. But in the campaign, 38.5, we've already exceeded that. So this is our largest campaign already, and we're on day one. The second thing I would say is probably fastest funding campaign we had for this kind of a goal. This is the largest goal we've had on a campaign. Nutty Squirrels, I believe, was 10,000. That one funded in 4 hours, I think. This one was 90 minutes this morning. Like it was just ticking fast. It was crazy. I couldn't believe how fast it was ticking along. So that was really exciting that we funded very, very quickly this morning. We were able to do a bit of a playthrough this morning with Adam. Did have a lot of technical difficulties. We are using software here that's piping this to 3 different platforms simultaneously: YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Reels, I think, stories, Instagram Live, I guess. And it is, there's some glitches obviously with that, but so far so good. It's been a fun day. We had to go like mad at the beginning. I was very stressed this morning. Mondo Davis just joined. Look what the cat dragged in. How's it going, buddy? Holy smokes. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's stressful. Running a campaign is, it's no joke. And I know, Mondo, you've run a campaign. You know this. It is high stress. You've got this feeling like when you're going on a long trip and you wonder, did I lock the front door when you're already at the airport? It's that kind of feeling where once I hit go, there's certain things on the Kickstarter page you cannot change. They are locked forever. So like the pledges, mainly the pledges on the side. So those actual pledges, once you create those pledges, you cannot change them. So very, very stressed about making sure that was right. We want to make sure that everything kicked off properly. Obviously, all of our ads that we had go out, all of our notifications going out to people, let people know, hey, this is this is live and so forth. Making sure that we're updating the graphics on our Facebook pages and things like that. So, that first couple hours, you're just going like mad, and we're trying to do a live stream at the same time, which is a little crazy. It's a little bit of a juggling act, but I think we got through it. We got most of our notifications out. I was pleasantly surprised we're able to send that funded notification within 90 minutes. I knew we'd fund the first day. I didn't really doubt that. The math was pretty clear. And we had, I think, 2,023 pre-signups on our Kickstarter page, so pre-notifications. I've been told the math is about 10% conversion of those. So whatever you can get as pre-signups, you're going to have about 10% are going to convert. So we knew just based on the math and our email list going in and the phone number list we had going in, we knew we were probably going to fund today. We just didn't know when. So, funding as early as we did was crazy exciting. Crazy exciting. I'm going to say it again just for everybody joined. Please go to the Kickstarter page, scroll down to the bottom. And so this is Cities of Venus on Kickstarter. At the bottom, I'm going to show you on the page, there's a box called Kick Tracks. Just do a quick little segue here. Come on, load, man. Load! It's called Kick Tracks. If you click on that button or that graphic, it will take you to the Kick Tracks page. Why this is important is that Kick Tracks ranks you based on people's interaction with searching for your game on their page. There it is right there. I'm going to go up. Oh, I can talk about the future coming up too, which is cool. All right, where are we? There we are, Kick Tracks. Come on, up you go. Yeah, a little bit more. There we are. So they look at the traffic coming in based on people searching for Cities of Venus. So that link basically comes to Cities of Venus on Kick Tracks. Based on that traffic, they have a basically a hot list ranking, right? What's the hot list? And last I checked, we were ranked number 2. And that's based on people clicking on the button. And there's no limit to the number of times you can click on it. If you want to click on it multiple times, thank you. But that button allows us to get more traffic. Why is that important? Helps with searchability. It helps with the algorithms. People go to Kick Tracks to look at what's new on Kickstarter that they may want to go and check out. So again, it helps with our searchability. It helps people find our campaign. It's very, very helpful. And if you don't mind, that would be super awesome if you can go and just click on Kick Tracks. All right, let's talk a little bit about the future of where we are going. And I'm sorry if this is repetitive because I know people are coming in and out. So I'm trying to make sure I cover off some of these themes. All right, so next steps. We have the cards that we're talking about. And what we're able to send out to reviewers is about 60% of what we're working on. So we're going to have a lot more variety of cards that are coming in the current game. We also have plans that we'll be working on in parallel, card packs that will launch about once a year so people can freshen up their game board and add new abilities. New things will happen. It'll just be a new deck. And we're going to do that at least once a year and probably continue on as long as there's demand, right? If there's demand, we'll keep doing card packs. The boards are very high quality, so they will last years. The trays are everything is designed to last. The only thing that will wear over time will be the cards. So we'll make sure that we constantly have cards coming out. I know we've had some people ask about sleeves. The challenge with sleeves is to accommodate the sleeves, we'd have to make the boards a bit clunky for people not using the sleeves. I think more people don't use sleeves than use sleeves. At least that's our perception. So we're going to default towards the non-sleevers for these boards because we have to keep them kind of sleek, right? And so that's one thing we're not going to do is sleeves. Maybe plastic cards down the road. That might be something interesting to explore because I know those are a thing now. But but we're going to have card packs. So that's thing number one we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do is we've already started working on the sequel. We've got Thrice Up Pearl just joined. Welcome through Instagram Live. We have for our follow-up already in development is called Survivors of Venus. That game is very much a polyomino. In the spirit of games like Baron Park, if you play Baron Park, which I absolutely love, how you're kind of building, you're finishing boards and you're building more boards and you're filling in your polyomino shapes to kind of fill in those things. So with this game, the mechs, so the people that went down to the surface that you thought were lost actually weren't lost. In fact, they're looking for survivors because some of these canisters actually have immigration boosts in them. And if you don't take that canister, it falls to the surface. So what happened to those people? This is a story of what happened to those people. We have the miners down there out searching, trying to find these people. And the idea is you're building, they're exploring the terrain, right? So they're kind of mining the terrain to get to where these different people are. So you're trying to find survivors. At the same time, you're generating V-Knight, right? And the V-Knight will be used to power your mech, allow you to actually get more shapes and larger shapes and things like that. So there's a little bit of an economic engine there. And then you're trying to find parts that you can build a return ship out of. And the idea is that once, and it's not cooperative, but it's not take that either. It's very much like actually Cities of Venus in terms of play style, where some player interaction, but really each person's kind of playing their game. And then kind of at the end, the story is that all the cities are kind of floating in the skies and you have one person ends up being present, but everybody's got a self-sustaining a city. We're looking at doing something similar, but in terms of story-based, people are all these different miners. Each person's doing their own board, and then get to the point where you can find pieces of ship. And then those pieces of ship will click together to actually form the ship. And then once that ship's complete, it takes off. Whoever has the most victory points at that time, which again will be a combination of survivors you've rescued, minerals you've mined, and pieces of ship you've collected. A combination of those three things will determine who's technically the captain, I guess, of that ship that takes back off to get back up to the seas above. So that's the sequel. It's already in development. Our plan is if this game ships in, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say, let me qualify this. When this game ships in October of 2024. I said if because we're actually going to try to get it even earlier. So that's the latest we'll ship this game will be October of 2024. I'm going to do everything in my power to get it out early. We've never been late on a campaign ever, and we've done 5 campaigns. I want to have a campaign that's like significantly early where people are like, whoa, that's my goal for this, but I don't want to promise it. So we've got October 2024 as our delivery date. Sometime after then, probably this spring is when we'll launch the sequel, which is The Survivors of Venus. As part of that campaign, and then I'm still toying with this, of whether we have this as part of the campaign or if we do a separate, I'm thinking maybe even through a website, like a pre-booking. So we reach out to everybody that's backed this game and just say, hey, by the way, we have this other game, which is a roll and write that we're doing. Still trying to decide if it's going to be a print and play or if it'll be something that will ship with wipeable boards. But Stephen Hill, who's on our Kickstarter page, he's the rules editor scrubber. He's been working on this roll and write for some time, and it's awesome. And we're skinning it to fit the Cities of Venus theme, and it's going to be called Architects of Venus, and it'll literally be about the planning of the initial planning of these cities, and how these cities lay out and how you power them and so forth. So it's a roll and write, super cool. For me, I like to kind of come up with different genres of games for our portfolio. I've got a tank skirmish game. We've got set collection games with cards. We got this game, which has got a bunch of ishes in it, right? So it's kind of like worker placement-ish, resource management-ish, worker allocation-ish. Like it's got these issues. It's tough to kind of fit it in an exact box, but it's different than other stuff we have. We've got Catnip Auction House. It's the first auction game that we have. I wanted to have an auction game in our portfolio. We've got that. We've got Hamsters versus Hippos, which is a kind of a press your luck game with tile flipping, and we wanted to have a press your luck game in our portfolio. So I'm always looking to kind of add different mechanics and genres to our portfolio. And what I think is really cool about this is that we can create them all within the same story. So all within this whole story of Cities of Venus, right? The Architects is like a prequel. You've got Survivors, which is a sequel. I was talking earlier where I said I really love Rolling Heights. Love that game. The idea of rolling meeples and how the meeples land, that determines kind of ability to unlock other meeples. And so that whole rolling meeple mechanic, we're talking about, well, what can we do with these guys? Maybe it's called VNOT training, or maybe it's out of the airlock or something like that. But some way you're chucking these guys on the table, and based on how they land, there's a mechanic there. That's as far as that idea is gone, but there's an idea there that we want to explore. And I see that as we kind of map this out, we're probably looking at 10 years worth of content. If I was to be, I think, realistic, if we're launching something like kind of once a year, I think we can create enough around this without it kind of milking the same game. And what I mean by that is you see some games where, and I want to call it in-game specifically because I really dislike when you see a video or something like that where someone's trashing a game. I will never trash a game. I really like Board Game Co., right? Daniel Radcliffe. I know most people know Daniel Radcliffe. He's just a super good dude. We've had him on the podcast. He will go through a game and he'll say, here's what this game is about. All right, this is mechanically how it works. Here's the kind of audience I think it's for. Here's where I think people are going to find their enjoyment. But he won't say this game is crap, or this game is trash, or I hate this game. And I know a lot of content creators won't do that, but there are some out there that will. And I don't like disparaging other people's games. So I'm not going to name a game specifically, but there are games out there where they'll do kind of a second edition, or they'll do like an expansion, and the expansion really adds absolutely nothing to the game. And Megan, I know if you're still watching, we played one, and we're not going to say what it is, but we were playing one the other day where we played the expansion, and we're like, this added absolutely zero to the playability of this game, other than the fact I can say I own the expansion. So we don't want to do that. So if we're expanding this, we want to expand it in ways that it creates different things, different play experiences, explores the story a little bit more. Adam's been pushing me like crazy. He wants to do a take that versus type game where you're dogfighting. So I'm not there yet, but he really, really wants to do that. He's like, dude, I want to have people leave the city on some kind of a ship and just start gunning other people's ships, and then pirates go and attack other people's ships and rob them of their supplies. And that very much speaks to his play style and the types of games he loves that we play when we're playing kids. Very Risk-like. I'm not there yet. Might be convinced at some point, but that just gives an idea of something different, right? That you can do with this kind of story and this theme. So that's kind of where we're headed with that. So that's kind of the future of us, and quite frankly, we hope people come along for that journey. And it is a journey. It's something where it's a lot of fun. It's cool when people are like, man, I can't wait to see this, or I can't wait to play it, or oh wow, I'm so happy for you. Those are all things that kind of keep us going. And nothing makes me more happy than when I'm at a game night and I look across the room and there's somebody playing a game that I've made, and they don't see me looking, and they didn't pull it because I'm there. They pull it because they own it, and they're playing with a bunch of players. Oh, it hits you there. It really does. You're like, oh my God, those people are playing something I created, right? That's my creation, and they're having fun, right? And that's cool. So that's kind of why we do it. Yeah, you got Endo Girl talking about Adam. Yeah, Adam's play style. Even this morning, we're doing a playthrough, and the first words out of his mouth is, watch how I whip my brother. That's what he said. And he actually did whip me pretty good. I got annihilated this morning. my excuse was I was trying to do the question and answer on the stream while he was just kind of calculating everything. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. But I will give him the win. He absolutely destroyed me this morning. It was crazy. All right, so where are we sitting at? We're at 44,038. I'm gonna hit a refresh. This morning it was weird. It was lagging. We had it, and people were like, "Oh, you've already crossed this." And we're like, "What?" That's not what it said on our page. But yeah, it looks like it's feeding in accurately now. So coming in close to 45,000. That's super exciting. We're not even at 7:00 yet. I was struggling with one thing. I was asking one of my colleagues in the industry is we did this text blast this morning, and I want to be respectful of people's phone numbers, because if you start spamming, and I do this in general, like even if we're doing a campaign, usually we're going to say, hey, just a reminder 48 hours ahead of time, this is coming, so don't forget. Launch day, we'll usually remind you. And then usually the next day if we funded, we'll say, hey, by the way, we funded, right? Blair Burks, welcome. Board Game Burks, Instagram, welcome. And usually that's about it. And then at the end of my campaign, I'll usually do another blast. Other than that, it's just the updates through Kickstarter. I'll use the updates through Kickstarter where people are looking for updates, and you have to definitely provide updates. And there'll be one I'm going to work on tonight. We'll just say thank you to everybody that funded us and talk about some of the things that are coming, like the reveals. We're going to have a section that we're going to add to our page tomorrow. It's going to have it shadowed out. And then I believe we're going to do our first reveal Monday or Tuesday next week, which is something that's going to enhance what we have. It's not a change in the game, so it's not a stretch target, but it's something that's going to enhance what we've got, which is cool. So we're going to do a couple of reveals throughout the campaign. We also have what's called Chronicles of Venus. So we've written some stories around some of the characters and things that happen to these people at these different steps within the game. So as you're going through the game, some of the things that, quite frankly, we're imagining, right? When we're talking like when the mech, and you have to, pay a resource to. I always have to do this backwards anyway. You have to pay a resource, so you have to pay your little miner in order to roll the die, and then we put the die back. You don't get this guy back. He's gone. He's burnt. So it's like a one-way trip to the surface. When I play games, and this goes back to when I was a kid, I would always play the stories in my head, whether I was playing with my Star Wars figures or anything. I'd always have like the movie kind of playing in my head. And it's like that when I play this game. I'm like, okay, what happened to that guy? What was his last day like? Why didn't he come back? What happened? So we actually, in our Chronicles of Venus, we talked about that guy's story. I can't remember what the name we gave him, say Frank or whatever. But the story was, as he's going through the clouds, he looks up and he sees his thruster lights are flashing. That his thrusters are actually his ascent thrusters, the ones that will bring him back to the ship, aren't working. And all of a sudden it dawns on him, this is a one-way trip. I'm going down and I'm not coming back. And then in that day, you know what? Because again, based on pride and want to keep the city going, he's going to mine until his mech basically breaks down. He's going to keep mining. He's not going to stop. He's going to do everything he can to help the city and those above him. And then they have emergency balloons that ship the V-Knight that's been mined back up to the city. So we talk about that story. It's just one of the stories we have. So we're going to kind of seed those out every kind of few days as well as part of our updates, keep the conversation going. Another thing we're going to do, and I'll probably put in the comments maybe tonight, is I'm looking for ideas. Daniel Acuna is going crazy getting this artwork done, but we can have him do more. And, if there's a really cool idea out there, I want to integrate it into this game. And so we're going to put it out there and say, hey, does anybody have any cool ideas about an event that could happen, for instance, or would be something kind of cool in the ship, an innovation you can think of? You don't have to know how to play the game, but just conceptually, story-wise, what's something that would be kind of cool? And we'll probably take the best one and actually turn it into a card. And of course, credit that person in the book for coming up with that idea. If more than one person have the same idea, credit multiple people. But that, some of the things that we want to do in this campaign. I think these are going to be ways that we can keep the conversation going, which is important because you have to keep the comments going, because if you don't, you'll fall down in the searchability rankings. And two, none of us, as I said earlier on, are as smart as all of us. And there's a diamond's idea out there that I'm sure we haven't thought of that I'd love to story-wise integrate into this. I think would be kind of cool. So right now we're at nearly 45,000. That is super awesome. I'm going to go over the page again for those who are just kind of joining. Maybe people don't know, because again, TikTok just randomly starts feeding this. I think Instagram does too, to pretty much anybody that is just scrolling. So we're going to talk a little bit about this for people that are joining us, but this is the Kickstarter campaign for Cities of Venus. This is a game that we just launched today. Already funded. We're sitting at $44,648, 415 backers. Have helped us get there. We funded in the first 90 minutes on our campaign goal of 20,000. So thank you very much for everybody that is that backed us. Truly, we are so grateful, so humbled by the support we've received. This is kind of a medium lightweight. I call it kind of a welter because it's not super light like Patchwork. But if you look at like Rolling Heights, what some people might say is medium, I'd say it's kind of a little bit lighter than Rolling Heights. So I'm going to call it welterweight. Obviously, you can't put that in your graphics, so we're going to call it kind of medium light. And people that back us on the first day get this amazing first player mini. This was painted by Endo Girl, Megan, who's I think still in the chat, and she did an amazing job on this. Somebody asked me, for those who don't know, in Canada, on the original space shuttle, there was the Canada arm. So there was this mechanical arm that Canada contributed. Our engineers contributed to basically grab things and bring them into the bay, holding bay of the space shuttles. There's a Canada arm 2, which actually has the Canada hand attached to it. That's attached to the International Space Station right now. Again, helping if they need to move something from one place to the other. The big arm that does that is actually made in Canada. So someone has asked me, is this like a Canada arm? So we might do a tiny little Easter egg on there somewhere, a little mini maple leaf. Not going to call it out too big, but something that might be kind of cool. It's just like a little call out. I think that'd be awesome. So that's free if you back us the first day. All backers that back us first day automatically ships with your game. You don't even have to add it on. It's just you back us in the first 24 hours. It automatically gets added to your game. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. or 9:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, that then becomes a add-on that's going to cost $10 to add on. So if you want it for free and save yourself some money, please lock in your bid today. Plays 2 to 4 players. We had some people saying, it's a 1 to 6 player game. Why are you saying 2 to 4? I'm kind of caught because on one side, if I say it's a 1 to 6 player game, and then people scroll down and say, buy the 1 to 4 player version, and they're like, well, wait a second, it says 1 to 6. Why is it 1 to 4? That's confusing. And then I got other people that back to 1 to 6, and they're like, well, it's technically 1 to 4. We went 1 to 4 because that's the base game. All right, you can play this game 1 to 4 players. The add-on or extended version brings it to 6, so adds a lot more stuff. Like it's another 110 pieces get added to the game, which are unique to that game. In terms of the cards are unique to the 6-player game. And instead of you having 2 boxes, because quite frankly, from a manufacturing standpoint, that would be the easiest. Ship you the base game, and then have the pick pack facility say, here, add this to these people that did the 6-player version as an add-on, and just ship them put the 2 boxes in 1 box. We didn't want that. I really don't like games where you can't fit everything in 1 box, especially expansions. Like I don't like having to bring multiple boxes to the game table. So everything in the 6-player version is going to go into the box. So it'll be a deeper box than the 4-player version, but everything's going to fit in there. So we thought the fairest way to describe this is a 1 to 4 player game, and then add on the extension. We just had Douglas Gooding join us. The Board Game Collector. Welcome, my friend. Instagram Live. So let's go over this campaign. So ages 14 plus. Can you play with younger? Yeah. It's a funny thing. Both Canada and the US do this, and the European Union as well. Anything below 14 years of age that you tag on a box, there's no difference between that and putting 4 babies on it. Seriously, you might as well put for toddlers. They assume that if you're under 14 years old, you're automatically going to try to eat whatever components are in that box. And then you have to go through all this crazy testing in terms of toxicity levels. And if somebody eats that plastic, what level of whatever's in it, and, what kind of ink was used on that card if the person decides to eat the card. So for a game like this, we're just going to go 14 plus, so we don't have to go through all that testing. And we still put the small part warning on the box because you got to be careful kids don't choke on some of these pieces. So that is on the box. But it's not obviously for young kids. So we put the 14 plus. If you have adult supervision, can you play this with someone that's 10? I think you probably could. It's robust, but it's deceptively simple, as I guess one person described it. You can teach this game in like 10 minutes. The first round really plays almost like a tutorial. So if you do the first round all together and kind of do the same moves, that will give people exactly how to play each round from there, and then they can kind of do their own thing from there. This shows the table, the 6-player version. The only thing that's missing from this picture is there should be 6 of the volcano trays, where this 6-player version only has 3 in that photo. But you get 6 in the 6-player version. This is year 2222. The story, in case you guys haven't heard the story, this is the near distant future. Humanity has established these floating cities in the clouds of Venus, and Earth has been sending supplies to help keep those, essentially establish those cities and keep them thriving. At some point, communication is lost with Earth. No one knows why. We just lose communication from Earth, and we don't know when the last supply run is coming. And so the way we thematically represent that in the game is there's this Earth card that comes up that we randomly shuffle into the bottom third of the deck. So the deck there's 3 phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Gets increasingly punishing as you go. Also gets increasingly rewarding in terms of like victory points and things like that in the later cards as well. But you shuffle it at some point into the third phase of the deck. And so it's going to randomly come up. You don't know when. There's 4 drops in the third phase. It could come up in the first drop. It could come up in the fourth drop. This morning, Adam and I played. It came up in the first drop. So the play time kind of varies a bit in terms of when the game's going to end. But it also has that tension of, okay, I got caught this morning. I held a canister worth 4 victory points. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to install it right at the last drop. As soon as the Earth card comes up, I'm going to install it into my shields and take the victory points. Well, that turn just happened to have an event come up that said no population growth. So I couldn't get the workers into the departments I needed to pay to install that card. And I was cooked. So I lost 2 victory points because I didn't install a card, because you lose points. We call it kind of the anti-D-bag rule. Sometimes you have that guy you're playing with that will take a card just so you can't have it. They don't want it, but they just take it so you can't have it. So we want to kind of eliminate that. You still can take cards that other people want, but you're not going to take the card unless you can use it. That's kind of the way that this mechanically works. So, but we wanted to kind of encourage that by saying, okay, well, if you do hold a canister just for the sake of holding it, you're going to lose 2 points. So you have to install it. So that card was worth 4 plus a 2 I lost because I couldn't get it installed. I lost 6 points, and he absolutely annihilated me in that game. Here you see the VNaught in their mining mechs. These are, they come white like this, so they're not painted, right? Well, actually, they're going to come gray. They're going to come as like a injection molded, kind of standard gray plastic. Megan painted these, so this is one of the painted ones. So Megan Endogirl, who's in the man down, who's in the lobby right now watching, painted these. But it holds your little ore, so it's your V-Knight ore in his backpack, which is your die. And your little player, who's right there. This guy insists on sitting on the ground. He's dropped twice now. Goes into the mech. The mechs, somebody asked me, are these decorative? For sure, they're very decorative. They increase the presence on your table. They just look cool. When you have the table set up, people are like, whoa, what's that? But they actually do serve a functional purpose. And what we found when in all the playtests we did, and again, we've been working on this for 3 years, almost every time I played the game, someone would forget if they had spent a VNaught in order to mine. And you might say, what's the big deal? Because this game, we created the balance of this game in such a way that the game will usually end within a few points of each other. So that the first and second player, except for this morning where I got annihilated, but for most games, there's probably going to be maybe a 4-point spread, right? It's often 1 or 2 point spread between player number 1, player number 2. So if you are have that kind of a spread and you forget to burn the cost of mining, well, these guys are worth half a victory point at the end of the game. I mean, that could be the difference between you winning when you shouldn't have won and so forth. So we create this mechanic where you place the person in there, you take the die out, you roll it, get your minerals because you get mineral points for whatever your roll is. You put it back, and then this guy gets burnt. And if everybody's doing that, because it's simultaneous play, everybody's doing this together and you can see everybody doing it, there's a very little chance that someone's going to forget to burn some. So that's why we did that. And originally has them as an add-on. Jordan from TikTok, welcome. Originally we were going to have this as an add-on. So you just, another $20 and you can add 4 mechs onto your game. But everybody loved the mechs. Everybody loved the mechs. We love the mechs. I said, you know what? Let's just include them in the game. It's going to be way easier from a manufacturing standpoint, not trying to do like different types of boxes with different types of trays. It's much easier if I can get this down to literally 2 configurations. So that's a very streamlined from a manufacturing standpoint. Pick, pack, it's going to be cheaper as well. It'll be much easier. And then we're guaranteed that everybody gets the game, has a very cool table presence. There's a neoprene mat that we're going to get to here in a second that's included in every single game. Here he's talking a little bit why back the game. Well, quite frankly, we're a team of 2, right? We've got a lot of people, like as what we call the extended family, right? So most people in this industry, believe it or not, most publishers in the hobby game industry are teams of 6 people or less. And often the teams are 2 to 3 people, and quite a number of them are literally 1 person, right? So for me on my end, Adam and I are co-designers. So he helped co-design this game, but I'm the person that's doing all the developing, the publishing, working with the factories, working with the illustrators, artists, reviewers, peer reviewers, all that. And so, it's a grind, right? It's a lot of work, and there's not a lot of money in these. Like even here, we're going to see right now we're at $45,000. That's a lot of money, but if I compare it to the cost to actually bringing this to market, we're still in the red, quite frankly. We're still in the red. And I know Mondo, if he's still in here watching, he knows. No one's driving Lambos making board games. We do it because we love it and we're passionate about it. So you're supporting an indie board game designer. Secondly, this copy that you see on Kickstarter is not going to be available at retailer. I already had a retailer reach out to me today saying, hey, is this going to be available at retail? And the answer is no. Sorry. They can buy it at the same price as everybody else's at the full pop here, but we're not doing like the 50% discount. Here's your retailer copy. We are not intending to sell this at retail. Even when the campaign's done, any extra copies that we have that are printed, shows, Gen Con, Origins, Essen, which we're going to be at in this fall, we'll sell them there, probably at a higher price than we sold even here on Kickstarter, maybe from our website, but we're not going to sell it for less than you're buying here on Kickstarter, and there's going to be a limited quantity. We are working on potential localization deals. So localization is basically most games will work with people in different countries, which are publishers that will take that person's game and produce it for the local market. And sometimes they'll make some adjustments and so forth. We're very much going to do those, but it's going to be a stripped down version of the game. So no neoprene mat, no mechs. You're going to have a single layer player board. So all that cool stuff people like to see, and we're going to show you in a second with all the cards sliding in and out of the board, none of that's going to be in the retail version. So to get kind of the holy crap package like we're presenting here, because again, this is premium, you can only get it on Kickstarter. So those are the reasons why you want to back this right now. How to play, very quickly, I went through this earlier, but you start off, we have this drop coming through the clouds of Venus. These are supplies that came from Earth. This is a combination of population, like immigration, where they're sending engineers for you to put into different departments. And there's also things that physically upgrade your city. Like literally you're plugging them into your city to allow your city to do different things, increase capacities of certain departments, allow departments to churn out more goods and so forth. Then if there's a caution symbol that shows up on any card, that triggers an event. And we had to cap this because some people were literally crashing their ship after like 2 or 3 rounds because it can get quite punishing. So what we end up doing, Trash joined. No way. Oh, that hits me in the feels. Hey, Trash, how's it going? Good. I don't know if it's you or Andy joining, but either way, love to have the Rayburns join us. Oh, it's such a joy. Anyway, the caution symbol, we had to cap it that no matter how many symbols show up, you only resolve based on the number of the phase you're in. So if you're in phase 1, even if 3 symbols show up, you're only resolving 1 event. If you're in phase 3, 3 symbols show up, which happened to Adam and I this morning, you're actually going to resolve 3 events. So as a way for us to kind of gradually ease you into the punishment, so to speak. If you don't like games where things are constantly happening, this is probably not the game for you. I had one person that was reviewing the game, and they said, I don't like, I'd build up an area, and then an event would happen, and it would wipe out half my people. And then I was trying to do this, but I couldn't do this because this event happened, and I didn't do this because I lost this. And I said, this game's not for you. This game was very much designed thematically to imagine like you're actually trying to establish a city in the clouds of Venus. These cities are acidic. Like the clouds around you are acidic. They're constantly eroding your city. You'll never go to the surface ever, right? The surface is you will burn up instantly and you'll die before you even get there because the pressure is like 4 times that at the bottom of the lowest point here on Earth right now. The bottom of the Mariana Trench, take that by the pressure there times by 4. That's the pressure on the surface of Venus. If you have any probes that have been sent there, within minutes are destroyed. There's only 5 pictures that have ever been taken of the surface of Venus from probes that were sent in the 70s from some Russian probes that were sent. So we kind of want to have that's the fun of the game, is trying to figure out that puzzle of, okay, how do I survive? How do I grow but also survive at the same time? Then when you get into eroding shields, every round your shields are eroding, so you got to make sure you have people there. If you cannot pay the cost of a shield erosion, i.e. you don't have enough workers there, then you're going to lose 2 people from someone else from another department, or a combination of other departments, but you'll lose 2 people from other departments for every 1 you can't pay that you're supposed to pay from either an event hitting or, say, your shields eroding. So it's very important for you to constantly keep things up. It's very tough for you just to focus on one department and one kind of thing. You kind of have to be doing everything. You got to be managing kind of all the controls at the same time. There are upgrades that, quite frankly, allow you to insulate yourself from that, not from events yet. The final game will actually have some powers that allow you to insulate against events, but in our current preview copies, we have a card that it's a shield that slides in, and then you don't have to erode your shields. You just have to worry about events. So you still have to have people in that department. Then you get a population growth. Very simple. It's between your food and your air and water departments. Whichever is the least number of people you have between those departments represents your population growth. We do have the mercy rule, which is you can't have less than a 2 population growth. And getting jiggly with it on YouTube, they did a playthrough on Sunday, and I think both of them at one point, literally those departments went down to 0. And that's your engine, which is generating your people, and they had to use the mercy rule to make sure they had their minimum population growth of 2. So you got to keep that going. So you constantly want to be growing those populations. Basically, your food, your sustenance for people. You need to keep that up to keep your population growing. Innovation. You can innovate anytime during the game at all. And as long as when you're deploying people, it's a maximum of 2 people you're deploying to that station at a time. This is where you're sending your best and brightest, right? The city is going to send these scientists off, and you want to send them to the innovation station to help you innovate, to find ways to come up with new things that your city can do to make living that much easier for you. Once you've sent 8 scientists to the innovation station, which is represented by placing them on your little mini player board, which is this guy here, which also acts as a handy little player aid. It gives you the steps you go through as well as your victory points at the bottom. Once you got 8 people there, you can cash it in immediately, and then you can grab from, there's another market along the bottom, which is a randomized selection of innovation upgrades. And these innovation upgrades are pimped out more than kind of the stuff you'd get in the regular drop. These are things that do extra stuff, and they all come with extra victory points as well. So it allows you to grab all those cards immediately and plug it into your board. Then you get into your city action phase. City actions, this is where you get to do, mainly everything else is setting up to get to this point where you can do stuff. There's 3 kind of core things you can do, but there's really ultimately going to be like 7 or 8, depending on the cards you have, because certain cards, for instance, there's one innovation that allows you to move people around your board. Because right now, meeple laid is a meeple played. Right? See, once that person's in a department, they can't move. So there's an innovation card that allows you to actually move up to 2 people between departments per round in that city action phase. So there's other cards that are coming that do other things like that as well. There's going to be one that's going to allow you to send people up to the innovation station even during step 5 from one of your departments. So we've got all these other cool innovations that are coming, and they will all activate during step 5. In addition to that, any canister you reserved, I'm going to talk about how to reserve in a second, those can be installed during step 5. The cost of that card plus a mechanic from your mechanic department as a penalty. If you need to catch up on your population, excuse me, itchy nose, there is a bit of a catch-up mechanism where you can spend 4 mineral points. So that's a 4 right there. The blacks are 1s. 4 mineral points. You can buy a V-Knot and add them to your station. You can do that once per round in step 5. And then lastly, there's the mining. And the mining is sending a miner to the mech, grabbing the V-Knight ore die, rolling it based on the amount you get. That's going to signify exactly how much V-Knight you get to collect. There are upgrade cards allow you to add, what we call add to the pips, right? So if you rolled a 6, there's cards allow you to add, like if I rolled a 6, now that was an 8. If I rolled a 1, there's another card that gives you +3. Well, that's now a 4. So that's actually technically a victory point because you get into victory point scoring at the end. 4 minerals equals 1 point. So there's these kind of cool upgrades that allow you to do the mining. Then we get into the claim a canister stage. This is the only stage which is not simultaneous play. So you have our first player marker. Again, this is painted by Megan, but they'll come non-painted. Again, if you back today, you get this for free. In the first 24 hours, if you back, this comes absolutely free with your game. If not, it's an add-on you have to purchase for $10. And this is our first player marker, so it goes around the board. It changes every round to the next person, clockwise order. And the player order matters because when you look at that drop that happened at the beginning and came through the clouds, starting with the first player and going clockwise, you take turns choosing which card you want to grab. And when you grab that card, if you can pay, and I think, do I have one on my board here? I don't. These are innovations. You can see it on the page. Oh, it's highlighting on the page right there. You see it circled on the right side of the card. That's how you pay for the card. It's a person from each of those departments plus however many minerals you have to pay to that card is the cost of that card. If you can't afford that card, you can still take it and you put it in the bottom of your player board, which is your holding bay, which is down here. And that allows you to reserve the card that then on step 5, the prior step, and on a subsequent turn, you can then install it into your station or activate it if it's a boost card. End game, as I said earlier, once the Earth card comes up, which is randomly shuffled into the 3rd phase of the deck, when that comes up, that's the last drop. Everybody finishes that round out. You don't get to claim the Earth card, so there's always more cards than there are players in every drop, so everybody can still technically take a canister. And if you can't take a canister, you also get to take a V-Knot in its place, right? So there's never a round where you don't get something. But you take a V-Knot instead of a canister, and then that is the end of the game, and you get to end game scoring. Scoring is a combination of a number of things. It is the victory points on the cards. It is a point for every 4 minerals you've collected, and it's a point for every 2 of these people you have on your station. If you sent them up to the International Innovation Station, they're in orbit, they're doing science, they're not part of your end game scoring. So you want to try to time it that you're not sending people there kind of too later in the game. You're going to probably innovate in the first 2 phases of the game, although I had seen people innovate in the 3rd phase as well. Innovation, you can keep innovating as long as you want. Mathematically, you can only technically innovate 3 times. These are our pledges. So the base pledge level, what I'd say is that there's no stretch goals in this campaign. A lot of people say, I want some stretch goals. We just want to offer the best possible game out of the gate. That's it. So every game you have is going to have premium components. Going to take a drink of water. Starting with the neoprene mat. This neoprene mat looks super awesome. It's stitched, so it's not going to fray. It's not going to lift. It's not going to delaminate. The glue's not going to pull up. It is a high quality mat, and it looks super awesome on the table. Next, we've got our mining mechs. Here's what they look like. They're, again, single color. These ones are white because I 3D printed them, but they're going to be actually injection molded, which will be gray in the final game. And then you can paint them yourselves. Like here's an example of how you can paint them. And Megan painted them different colors. We have the ultra premium player boards, which this is a prototype even. This is a prototype made by hand. I'm looking to do a linen finish on this, which will even make it even more scuff resistant. But you can see in the video here exactly how it works. You're plugging cards in all the different departments. You got little windows that allow you to see kind of what's on the card, because some of the cards actually have really cool upgrades that when you plug that in, now that department actually activates that upgrade and you can see it through the window. This was something that we were planning on doing right from the beginning of our campaign. Absolutely from the beginning of our campaign, not even the campaign, the beginning of the game's creation. Right from day one, as soon as we came up with this idea, we're like, we need a station that you can physically upgrade, something you're actually plugging stuff into. That would be so cool. it was a lot of work to create these boards, a lot of iterations to get to this point. Quite honestly, a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be way easier to create these than it was. These were insanely hard to make or design properly. But you've got kind of the layer where you can see things sliding in and out. But if you have a meeple in this top tray, the meeples don't move because this slides in and you just see the window, but there's another tray that holds your meeples in the butt. So there's actually 4 layers to these boards. A lot of people refer to them as dual layer boards in some of the videos, but they're actually 4 layers. The 4th layer is the one that is actually hidden. So the 4th layer is sandwiched in between as a spacer because the card couldn't slide in unless there's actual space in there. So super cool boards. Cards, as I said, we've got 86 cloud drop cards coming. We've got a lot of reviewer videos we've done. We were able to give them about 60% of the art and variety that we had available when we had to do that production, but there'll be a lot more. Certainly event cards as well. We've got a lot more of those coming. Innovation cards, we've got 24 innovation cards. You get the mini player boards come with this as well. 200 VNaughts. So originally we had 150, we bumped it up to 200 just so that like there's zero chance that you're not going to have enough VNaughts when you play your game. Even if every person completely maxes out their board, you still have enough to lose some meeples down the radiator when you drop them. Like there's that many. We have 135 acrylic gems. The different colors represent the different stages of ore refinement. So the ones are black. As it gets more refined, it becomes pink. The V-Knight's kind of starting to show through. Those are worth 4 points. You keep refining a little bit further and it become clear. And that is that's the 8-point V-Knight. Why not 5s? I had one person ask me. Because our end game scoring is based on having 4. So it's easier for end game scoring by having them in this denomination, quite frankly. And likewise, like 2 V-Knaughts is equal to 4, if you're going to cash in 4 mineral points to get 1 V-Knaught, it's easier to do that. And then 2 V-Knaughts is 1 victory point at the end. 4 mineral points is 1 victory point at the end. So it's just easier to do kind of the conversions quickly in your head. So that's why we did that. We have the really cool marble dice. These are way more popular than I thought they're going to be. I just want something to look like V-Knight ore. But the number of people that have actually called out the fact that they think these look super cool. What I didn't realize is to get a die like this, typically you have to buy Dungeons and Dragons dice kit. And you're going to get everything from like a D4 all the way up to like a D20. You have the different colors. But it's very tough to get a set of D6s all kind of matching like this. But these will come standard in our game. You got the rocket tray. It's going to come, again, with the 4-layer, the 4-player game. You're going to get the volcano trays. Again, you get 3 of those. They spread out around the table. And then the rule book, of course. Our current rule book, I've got a draft in there. You can look at the rule book. There's a button you click on to see our draft rule book. What I will say is it's draft. It's 8 pages right now. And 2 of those pages are just taken up with the story of the science behind actually settling Venus, which is actually a real thing. It's possible if enough scientists around the world, just like they're focusing on Mars, they could equally focus on Venus. In fact, there are a number of scientists doing that right now. So it talks about that story, but our end rule book, we're thinking, is probably going to be 12 pages. Just as we add more pictures, more diagrams and things like that, it's going to expand that rule book out. We're going to have spot UV varnish on the cover and then the inside lid printing are going to be standard in our game. Extended 6-player level is basically getting 2 more of everything else to get up to the 6 players. You get another 50 V-Knaughts, so up to 300 V-Knaughts or 250 V-Knaughts now. You get another 3 of these trays, so you have a 6 of these total. You have 2 of these total now in your game. It's basically 110 extra components in your game. All the cards that we're adding, the extra cards, are going to be unique to the 6-player game. So if you get the 6-player game, you will have stuff that you can't, that the 4-player games won't get, right? So the stuff you won't get unless you're getting the 6-player game. It's more expensive. We want to reward that pledge level that way. So that's what we did there. Of course, don't take our word for it. Watch the preview, the review videos. These guys are quite candid with what they liked and what they didn't. So make sure it's a good fit for you, right? This it's an investment. And what we like about it is it's a very accessible game that plays up to 6 players and is very easy to teach. And those are the kind of games I like to have, is a game that I can get many different play styles at the game table, having fun first. First is fun's always first. And second, quite frankly, that even if somebody's first time playing, they still have a chance at winning. And that's the one thing I don't like about some games where you have to play it, several times before you're even going to have a chance playing against someone that's a seasoned player. This game, at least you have a chance. It certainly helps if you've played the game before. You're going to be more experienced than somebody that didn't. You're not going to make some of the rookie mistakes that you would make maybe on your first playthrough, but you still have a good chance of winning. And then as we get down to the bottom, again, we're back at the bottom of our page where we get to, again, these are just comments from reviewers. Our crew, again, shout out to Adam, my co-designer on this game, and my brother. We've got Daniel Kuna, the artist, did a great job on the artwork. We got more coming. We got Mackie, who did the graphic design, like all the frames and things around it, the iconography on the cards. Kind of that look and vibe was his design, which is really, really cool. We got Stephen Hill, who again has helped a lot with kind of the rules and scoping out kind of how to articulate how to play this game, which has been really cool. And is really taking a lead a lot in the initial development of this too, as we're doing a lot of our play testing. Just a great, great sounding board. And then, of course, we got Caitlin. And Caitlin is our social media. Hello, Lawrence. Sorry, I just noticed you just joined from Instagram Live. Caitlin's great at our social media, and she's fantastic on this Kickstarter page. Probably one of the nicer Kickstarter pages we've had. And that was predominantly her design, which is cool. Again, we're at this point. If you haven't been to this page, even if you don't back this game, please do me this favor. Go to the page, Cities of Venus, which is on Kickstarter.com, and go to Cities of Venus. Down near the bottom, there's this box that says Kick Tracks. Please just click on that box. That's going to take you to the Kick Tracks website, and specifically Cities of Venus at Kick Tracks. What that does is it boosts us in their algorithms and their searchability. Right now, we've actually managed to get to the position number 2 on the hot list. A lot of people go to that page to look at upcoming Kickstarters and make decisions about games they want to buy. And likewise, it really helps us with getting eyeballs on our campaign. So just clicking it, and click it as many times as you want. But the more traffic that comes to them through that link, the better our ranking will be. We've got our social channels. We'll add our Discord channel probably later on tonight. Certainly, that's cool. Somebody just let me know there's a typo. We'll make sure we fix that. And that's it. And then at the bottom, we've got where we're going next. If there's any questions anybody has, feel free to ask me. I'm super stoked that we're at $45,708 with 423 backers, 728. Oh, man, this first day has been awesome. Technically, our first day ends at 9 o'clock tomorrow. That's when the first player marker will no longer be free. It'll be a paid add-on, $10. So if you're interested in the campaign, even $1 pledge helps us with our backer count. It helps us with the algorithms. It helps us. We're trying to get the projects we love designation from Kickstarter, which would be amazing because then that helps boost your campaign by about 20%, which is amazing. Never got that on a campaign. Not sure how to get it, but my understanding is the more eyeballs and conversation you have going on in your campaign, the greater chance you have of getting that designation. So at this point, unless somebody's got some questions to ask, it is a good breaking point for me. My throat is sore from talking so much. Certainly, I think I can go into the chat room now on the actual campaign page, start interacting with some of the people that are asking some questions because I can see some coming through. And likewise, if you guys have any questions at all, please, any of our socials, just send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer any questions you have. Even if you just want to say hi, I'll say hi back. We're just so happy to have this community that we've built and incredibly, again, humbled and appreciative of the success we've had on this campaign so far. This is day 1. I am so excited to see where this is going to end up. Anyway, guys, all the best, and we'll talk probably on a live tomorrow. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.